Hey guys, welcome back to our
Real love scenario.
Shout out to all our real lovers out there.
Hey you guys. Hey you guys.
Welcome back. It's always a great time being
girls
here.
And you whatever you prefer to be called.
Yeah, we love you.
We love you. We appreciate you. We thank you for all the feedback, all the love, all the likes, all the shares.
For sure.
We see them. We love them.
And the great thing is that, like our real lovers always look out for us. I like to bring up the reviews. We're at 230 on Apple. I think 115 on Spotify. So people are coming in and showing us love. If you ever get a chance, just leave a review for us. We would love it. It means a lot to us.
Right now, here's your reminder. Go ahead and pause this.
Yes.
Run over and write the review. Come right back. We'll be right here waiting for you.
Yes. And it's funny. I told Ron the other day, I was like, some days, if you're feeling low, just go and just read them.
Yes.
And it's
they were good.
Our real lovers love us, and we love them.
We feel
and they hold us down.
We feel the love.
And I'm glad that y'all continue to support this show because we have a lot of great things coming up this year that we're going to be doing. Love to meet some of you guys in person. We're going to be doing some festivals too. Just wait to hear the stuff because we got some good stuff coming. We're excited.
Started from the bottom, now we in.
Hey,
I'm gonna sing that every year.
The whole team.
It's gonna hit real different year over year, ain't it?
Yeah.
Ain't it, Dre?
It is. And then we had a lot of people too that when we talked about merch, they was like, "Oh, I would definitely buy that." And people like your hat idea too. It's my thing. It's my thing. Clearly, I love hats. So yeah, it's all coming, man. I can't. It's we just gonna bust it out on y'all. All the things we gonna pop out. Yeah. Pop out and pop off. I'm excited.
Me too.
Well, first, let's start with your week since the last time we got together. How are things going? Anything new?
Things are good. Anything new? I don't know. Oh, well, I did. I moderated a panel.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, called for the mayor's office of Baltimore had a summit for girls called the Leadership Summit.
That's awesome.
It was school was out that day and they organized with Be More Children and the mayor's office. It just kind of handles a lot of the really cool events for kids. Mayor Scott's, one of his biggest focuses is the children and the youth of Baltimore.
The youth?
Yeah, so it was so nice. It was all girls. It was super fun. They had a performance and I got to interview I think 10 women who were panelists, all Baltimore, born and raised. Some don't live here anymore. Some are in fashion, entrepreneurship. I mean, it was great. It was such a good day. So it felt good to do that amongst my people. I got to meet some girls that go to my former high school. So it was good. All awesome. Good things. Yeah, so that was great.
You killing it. Rhonda out here killing it, guys.
I try to do a little bit of something when I can.
She is great at what she does.
Yeah, so that was good. But otherwise, it was a pretty cool week. I'm glad the weather is breaking.
Yes, finally.
Yes, the weather is breaking.
Hopefully it stays.
Spring's here, so I think we okay.
Okay.
Yes. How was your week?
My week was great. Obviously, I have a big thing that has happened, but I don't want to announce it yet.
Yes.
Maybe on
soon?
A different one. Soon.
But
yeah, definitely a life-changing thing that's definitely, going to move me in a different direction while also being in the same direction. I guess, yeah.
It's a great growth opportunity. Yes.
But yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited to share it with the real lovers as well and everybody who's going to be watching. But I just can't share it yet. If you follow me on Instagram, you'll be able to see it. But yeah, it's a big change. But I'm excited for it.
I'm very excited.
It's a new journey.
You. Yes.
Yeah, I'm super excited.
Sorry, y'all. It's like the low key feeling of you on the outside. We don't mean that, but
yeah, we don't mean that.
It'll be worth the wait. It'll be worth the wait.
It will be worth the wait.
Yes.
And I think that is a great segue into what we're going to talk about next. Well, first, let me hit our reviews because we always like to highlight our real lovers. And, we appreciate you guys, like I said, writing reviews and writing in. So we like to highlight you guys. So this is from Trackstar32. She a runner, she a track star.
We both was going there. Knew it.
The title says great podcast, 5-star review.
Boom.
I heard about this podcast around the second week of January, and I have since been hooked. Okay, that's a few months back. Okay. I began listening to it while driving long distances, but then I slowly shifted to listening to it during my 5 a.m. workouts. This podcast is that good, and I started from the very beginning, and I'm now caught up with the episodes. The chemistry between you two reminds me of what my guy best friend and I have, and I'm here for it. Additionally, you both are well spoken. Thank you, and y'all keep being great.
Oh, Thank you, Track
That's
Star.
awesome.
That's awesome. So glad to be a part of your morning workouts.
That means we're motivational.
That's excellent.
Inspirational.
Yes, for sure. And I love that the dynamic that is real is what she picks up on, which is like two great friends just having really good conversation about things that we understand quite well. So that's perfect.
Yeah, we appreciate that. I'm gonna read one more.
Yes.
And then we'll hop into our stuff for all the real lovers out there. This is from Tiff for Life.
Okay.
Tiff 4 number life.
Got it. Hey, Tiff.
5-star review. She says, boss. Y'all are so dope. Y'all definitely some bosses. And I'm beyond impressed with the podcast. And I'm not impressed quickly. Shout out to y'all. Y'all two are definitely going places and making it.
Thank you, Tiff.
We appreciate that. We know you ain't impressed.
Easily. Okay.
Or quickly.
We did what we had to do for you, Tiff. We see you, baby.
We appreciate you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That
Thank
was
you.
so
Thank
thoughtful.
you. Thank you. Thank you for everybody who writes reviews. It means so much to us. And like I said, I don't think you guys know how like it is a great pick me up. If we're having a down day or, gotta make a drive to get somewhere or, just need a little uplifting. It's great to be able to see that, to know that we're helping folks, and we appreciate that. And we're glad that you're a part of our journey, because this is not just a me and Rhonda thing. It's all of us.
It is.
Me and Rhonda talk about that all the time. We could just be having conversations.
We could do this. We already do this.
We don't need mics and lights to do this.
We don't.
This is ours, yours as much as it is ours.
Absolutely.
So we appreciate that.
For sure. You guys are family.
Awesome. You want to hop into our real life love scenario?
Yes, I am so interested in it. You briefed me a little bit, but
yes. So it's exciting because I think this kind of can go into our topic for today as well. But it's an article from the Washington Post that it's talking about relationship woes. And presents the idea that instead of people going to relationship therapy to try to salvage a dying relationship, they should go to breakup therapy in order to help to, break it off, be amicable.
Amicable.
Yeah, we got it. That word, y'all know what I'm talking about. And making sure that the breakup is healthy. One thing that they said in the article that I thought was interesting is they say every relationship needs a shared narrative, and it's the glue that holds a relationship together. Like we're together because we make each other feel safe. We work because we're opposites. We love each other because we have the same values. And I want to talk about that because that's something that Bree's therapist had talked to her about, like making sure that as a couple you have a shared narrative and understanding of like how your relationship was formed, what it was built on, how it came together. But there are some steps that they listed for breakup therapy. So I'm just going to read those steps. Number 1, they said create a relationship inventory. Number 2, it says be brutally honest about the ways that you didn't feel seen and heard. Number 3, accept your part in the split and state your grievance. Number 4, assess how the relationship shifted over time. Number 5, reflect on how past traumas or insecurities affected the relationship. And number 6, show vulnerability. So those are the steps that I guess the processes that they're saying you should go through in order to, get through the breakup therapy. And you can always go to Washington Post to read more of this article as it breaks down all these different things. But what are your thoughts on this?
I think this is so awesome. I mean, I think therapy is so valuable and it can be used for so many things. It is not just to, like you said at the beginning, it's not just to keep your relationship together. Sometimes it's to work through a bad moment, but also sometimes it's to work out something, like literally, like we're working our way out of this and we still want to be amicable, right? Like I saw a couple on Black Love, the show, years ago, and when they were all the couples on there are talking about season over season, the ups, the downs, the challenges of marriage, but they all, when the season is all said and done, they're all still married. They're all staying together. Well, this particular couple, a couple years later, decided to get divorced. And so because they were on TV, lots of people were following them at that point, and they felt that it was only right to share that part of their relationship as well. And they framed it as, they didn't say we were getting divorced. They said we're going through a healthy uncoupling, and they hired a therapist to help them navigate their divorce. And they were in this video together. Like, it was not that it was easy. They both were emotional talking about certain parts of it, but their shared narrative, as you talked about in this article, was that we want to walk away from this as healthily as possible, like not at odds, not having this extremely difficult disdain for one another. We don't want to be in here just throwing words at each other. Like, so they were doing the work to make sure that when it was all said and done, they would still be good. We're just not good husband and wife to each other. That doesn't mean we can't be decent people to each other.
Yeah.
So I am here for it. I think it's great. I think I'm impressed at how many people use therapy for different things other than what you initially think of it for. Mm-hmm. Like, I know I saw they have a podcast. I can't think of it right now, but they go to therapy for their business to manage how they deal with each other professionally.
That's awesome.
That's great. Mm-hmm. Like, use it for what it's necessary for, because everyone doesn't have the tools to do it just on your own. For sure. I think it's amazing. I would say, read the article, do it. I wish I would have done it in a couple of my breakups, truth be told.
I mean, I think it's an awesome thing. Like you said, therapy is just great. It just gives you the tools that you aren't necessarily equipped with. And it takes a certain level of self-awareness to understand I cannot deal with this on my own. And it takes courage. Yeah. So I applaud everybody who goes to therapy for whatever you're going to therapy for, whether that's for a relationship, whether that's for an addiction, whether that's for anything. It's like, I need help. Mm-hmm. And there's nothing wrong with saying that you need help. Like, saying that you have everything figured out is just not realistic.
No.
And then ignoring things and ignoring problems isn't a healthy way of living either. So therapy is great. I think that the shared narrative thing is such an interesting thing to me. And I think it's important in relationships. Like I said, Bree, her therapist, like, she had certain issues and things that she was talking to, and her therapist was like, I think you should just sit down with Dre and y'all should just go through a timeline of your relationship and just see, like, get the story straight on what you guys, believe. Because, everybody has their different perspectives on things in a relationship.
Mm-hmm. That's why they say your truth, my truth.
Exactly.
Because it's not necessarily that either of us are lying, but we just remember things the way that we remember things.
We have different perspectives.
Yeah.
And I tell that with Bree all the time, because you have certain things that are, factual things in a relationship, but even the motivation behind certain factual actions, what you feel like the motivation could be different. What somebody else feels like the motivation behind that is. And the thing that makes it challenging is that it's not about like being right or wrong. It's just about your perspective. It's almost like we're both watching the same show, watching the same concert, but I'm sitting on the left side and I'm sitting on the right side. Obviously, we're watching the same show, but we have different vantage points and different views. And you can't tell me that what I'm seeing is not what I'm seeing. Because you're not sitting over here. So you could never understand what I'm seeing from the right side of the stage. And I can never understand what you're seeing from the left side of the stage. Right. But we have to find some way to come together so that we're not at odds. And the reason that we're breaking up or having issues is really because we just refuse to acknowledge the other person's perspective and don't try to use both of those perspectives to create a full picture that we can both agree on.
Yeah.
Which I think is the biggest thing.
Yeah. No matter like what stage you're in your relationship, being agreeable when it's all said and done, that's it.
That's it.
With tension in anything, you're just not gonna get anywhere, because that means that there's no solution. If we're both like this, sorry y'all who are listening, if we're both bumping heads, like we're at odds, like we can't move forward. We have to be going in the same direction in order for us to progress. So even if that's progressing towards separation, well, we both have to be understanding that is the narrative and that is what we're working towards and how that should look. So I think,
well, it's like you said, great. I think that's the main part, right, of the friction of breakups, is that healthy uncoupling, as you said it, like this couple that you described. Even if I look at, what seems to be the Devon Franklin, Megan Good situation, or is it Tia or Tamara and her?
Oh, gosh, we went through this the last time we brought this up. I don't know.
Y'all know
Corey Hardick's wife.
Yes.
Okay, I know the husband.
But I think that when both people agree, like, okay, this is something that, we understand where we are, we understand what the challenges were, and we now both understand why it doesn't work, and we're okay with moving on from that, then I feel like you get a more easy, like breaking up or uncoupling situation. I think the issue is, like you said, when you don't have the shared narrative and you have one person who's over it and the other person who wants to still fight for it and doesn't understand why we're ending this, that's when you have like the friction of bumping heads, and it's like that's when it gets crazy. I'm not signing those papers. I'm not doing that. And then it's just like,
or when like the overall reason for the break is something really or something that is more like betrayal instead of we just don't work anymore. Like sometimes you just grow apart, like you just grow to be very different. Yes, you just get exhausted in the relationship. Other things are like massive betrayals, like you cheated with my best friend. Like, so hating you is easy.
Yes.
So it's harder for me to actually want to work with you towards an end goal because like I see you as an enemy at this point. And so I think it's harder in those dynamics, but I still think it can happen because ultimately you want out.
Well, that's probably the best case to have somebody to help you.
Yes.
Go through that.
Yes. Because of course you don't like that person. Like you see them as like, how could you do this to me? It's extreme betrayal. So yeah, I'm team therapist. I don't care. As long as it's the right person that can handle your situation, team therapy all day.
For sure.
All day. We getting into our real love scenario?
Yes. And before we start, I want to say that with this scenario, it's as I always say, a doozy.
It's a doozy.
But I want people to understand that, even if you may listen to the scenario, you may not feel like it directly relates to my life, that I think that there's principles that we're going to be able to identify that you will be able to apply in your situation. So I just want to put that disclaimer out there.
It's a great disclaimer. Thank you, Dre. So this person says, please keep my name anonymous. I started dating my now husband 3 years ago. He was incarcerated for 15 years, in which the last 3 we spoke on the phone for. When he got out, we immediately got together and he moved in with my daughter and I. Then in a turn of events, his baby mom dies and we take in their 2 kids. We did speak about this scenario as his ex was very sick. We all lived together in my 1-bedroom apartment. I stopped working and then came out pregnant. My husband and I have a very open relationship and he knows my past. I was promiscuous and had threesomes and things like that. After that relationship ended, I started working on myself and didn't have sex for 2 years. And then on the phone, I grew fond of him. I love my husband, but my husband now is accusing me of not being freaky with him. I explained to him that I feel that I'm no longer in that mental space, but I will please him and give him a threesome. Now 1 year has gone by and my husband has grown tired of all of the time and waiting that other men that came before him did not have to do. He has told me that he feels that I did all of my freaky things in my past with my past lover and he wants that version of me. My problem is that now I am drowning with housework and kids and my health, and I feel like I have put all of my energy and resources into this relationship. And now it seems like nothing is enough because I have not given him this threesome. Help me, please. Thank you, Anonymous.
Thank you.
She actually wrote in her name as Desperate Housewife.
Yes, she did.
Yeah, so...
It's so funny when you hear certain things and make you think of certain songs. It's like my head just went to, I want to freak in the morning, freak in the evening.
Okay, Adina Howard. Okay, Adina. Okay, Dre. You don't know about Adina Howard.
Hey, listen, man.
Wait,
you know
is that
I'm
Adina
old, so.
I don't know. Let me not go down this rabbit hole. I think it's Adina Howard. Just let me. Yeah, I think it is. 'Cause I'm that kind of girl.
Yeah. Y'all know what we talking about. Yeah, it's Adina. Freak like me.
It's Adina, yes.
I'm a freak.
Ooh, Lord, I had no business. I was literally told by name, like, do not listen to music by Adina Howard. Because she was so spicy for her time. But
now she'll be.
Oh my gosh. Mild. Light work.
Okay, how you want to start? Where you want to start? You want me to start? You want you to start? How you want to jump into this?
You take the floor. I have some questions.
Okay.
And probably the very first one, if I must, is I really want to know your thoughts on dating people that are incarcerated. because she started this relationship with him.
Yes.
While he was incarcerated.
Oh man. I cannot see myself doing that.
Yeah.
Currently incarcerated, that's one thing. My wife, she's been very open about she's had some trouble with the law at times. But nothing like ever to where it was like, even that she was locked up for like 3 months or 2 months. It was like, just
for the night.
Yeah,
just
for the
a moment.
Night. Just moments, couple hours. Like
it's not the same.
A lot of fees for like stuff. Yeah. She had an anger issue. She, some people just, when it comes to authority, they just like,
yeah, they struggle with it.
Yeah. Like some people, if you drive in a place and you go to the mall and it's like, this is for Nordstrom's and parking only for 5-minute Nordstrom's, or this parking is only for takeout. Like if you go at Tyson's, like those spots are always empty because people are just like, that's not our spot. Shouldn't park there.
Yeah.
So it's okay. So where some people like,
what they gonna do? Ain't nobody gonna come out here and check for nothing. Ain't nobody getting nothing. I'm parked right here.
And that's what I learned with like my wife is just certain people like, and she's changed now, but like when I first met her, it's just like the thought of like consequences or authority is just like
it's like whatever.
I'm on double park right here. I don't care. Like
whatever happens.
It's park a handicap spot.
Be good.
Who cares? Like, and it's like because also there's like a distrust sometimes with the system, and they feel like they always work us. So it's like, why should I trust this system? But that's getting into a different conversation. But dating somebody in jail, in prison, like I cannot see myself doing that. I haven't been in a situation. I understand also environments play a big part. And this is a different example, but like I know that they said they showed on the blogs that Krishan and Blueface, for those people that don't know, that she was like smoking, and they were like, oh, like she's pregnant, like, but she's smoking. And then somebody was like, don't act like that's not normal. Don't act like that's normal. And I'm like, well, depending on where you grow up,
it is normal,
and where you're from, that is normal.
Unfortunately,
yeah, I know people who've done it.
Yeah, same. And I mean, not just cigarettes, like weed. Yeah, the whole gamut. Yeah.
So like, I don't know what type of culture Anonymous has grown up in to where that could be just
normal,
a normal thing that people do. People who've done it and all that stuff like that. I personally, in my circle, don't necessarily know people that done it because I don't even know a ton of people that went to jail. But yeah, I personally don't think I could do it.
Yeah. Same. I don't think I could do it. As a matter of fact, I'm pretty positive I cannot do it. I definitely have done it. And when I say done it, I have maintained communication with someone while they were serving time. But it was for a short period of time because realistically, I could not do it. I could not have a relationship in that way because just inherently I felt like I couldn't really trust this person because they are in a situation that is extremely controlled. Yeah. Like and also does not have the freedoms, obviously, because it's jail. Just doesn't have the freedoms that others have in order to really, I guess what I'm trying to say, like when you're in a certain situation, you think about like torture, right? I know this sounds extreme, but when you're being tortured, you're probably more than likely willing to do or say things that you wouldn't say or do if you weren't being tortured.
Yeah, I feel what you're saying.
Right? So I feel like when you're incarcerated, sometimes you have this motivation to do and say things that you wouldn't do and say if you were not behind bars. Yeah. You may be making me certain promises, or because you don't have the ability to be entertained by certain things, this becomes entertainment. You need something to latch onto because a lot of times when people go behind bars, they lose connection to people that they had connections to, not because they don't have their phone numbers, not because those people moved. Those people are just no longer interested in being affiliated with you.
For sure.
So your circle gets super small, and sometimes the love from a woman or a man, for men who date women that are incarcerated, that becomes like everything. This person was being so vulnerable with me when they were incarcerated, but I knew him outside of incarceration, and he was not like that.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying jail doesn't reform some people. The purpose of it is, in fact, to reform.
Yeah.
the BS alleged reason. You know what I'm saying? Because we know in general, jail does not do that. It is a big business. We ain't gonna go in no deep dive in on the politics behind prisons.
For sure.
But he was not like that. He was not like that. And then once he got out of prison, also not like that.
Yeah.
So I couldn't do it because it's just, you're in an environment that makes me feel like you'll do and say anything just to be entertained. Also having to keep up with the hours, like you calling at times that because you got something that you're not supposed to have in jail, you're having to call me at 2 and 3 o'clock in the morning. I have to be to work at 8, 9 a.m. I can't keep up with this. I'm also not going to be coming and visiting and it's been times where I couldn't wear certain things. I didn't realize that until I got there. So I had to go back home and change my clothes. The whole experience of it all is a lot. Even when you go visit people in prison, although you are not behind the bars, you're not in the cell. When you go to visit, it feels that way because there's so many things you cannot do.
Yeah.
Depending on what they're in there for, the type of facility that they're in, you can't touch. You see them through something. Some people you can't even sit in front of, like we're sitting here. You're between bars or plastic, or you're using a handset to talk through. All too much. It's just all too much for me. Like, I'm not that girl. So I pray to God that any man that I wind up being with, sir, you better be doing all things correctly, because if it all goes down and you have to go away, I'm not saying I'm not going to be there for you, but we are not going to be in a relationship. Let's put it that way. I'm going to be there for you within reason, but I'm not that girl, and I don't feel bad about it. I don't, because I'm not going to be the woman that you probably need me to be. So just, find somebody else to do it. Get somebody else to do it, because I cannot handle it. And it sounds like her situation is similar to the one that I dealt with, in the sense that she knew him probably prior to, because he was incarcerated for 15 years.
Yeah.
The last 3 of them is when they started talking. I mean, are they on like dating apps or something?
Yeah, I don't know how that works.
Might be today.
Today, yeah, it's a little different.
It's a little different today.
It's a little different.
So I assume she knew him.
Yeah.
And then they got connected somehow.
Yeah, I mean, now that I'm married, I think, I could definitely hold my wife down, depending on what happened. So I always think of, like, you have those situations, let's say something happened, you were driving, and for whatever reason, maybe you looked down, maybe your phone slid or something like that, you accidentally hit somebody. Did not mean to do that, but obviously that's manslaughter. So you might get some time for that, especially if they feel like you're at fault.
Yeah.
And it's like that person could be away for a little while, but I don't think that you intentionally like tried to do that, but you got to serve a little time. Like, I feel like in situations like that, I could hold somebody down.
And it's your wife.
And it's my wife. If you're out here committing crimes, then that's a whole different thing.
Yeah.
But
like premeditated crimes.
Yeah, like premeditated crimes. That's a whole different thing. But I want to just point out too, for those who are listening, one thing that when Rhonda and I both discussed this, I want to highlight that we didn't say anything about people in jail being bad people.
Right.
Like, we didn't say that. No. Like, we are fully aware that there are a lot of people in jail who shouldn't be in jail, that everybody who goes to jail aren't bad people. They could
Some people are in jail and they're not even guilty.
Yep, exactly.
It's true.
Some people get mixed up with the wrong things. Some people take the fall for certain people. Like, it's just a lot of different situations. So it's not at all saying that the person who's in prison or in jail is not a good person or doesn't have great qualities or great character or anything like that. Yeah. It's just about the situation and the environment of which you have to then have a relationship. It's just very difficult to do that. So that's more what we're highlighting in this situation.
Sure. Absolutely. I've had family members. My father was incarcerated for many years when I was young, for not paying child support, which is a crime, which is, in his case, somewhat premeditated. He knew that he was ordered to pay something, and he didn't do what he was supposed to do to pay it.
Got you.
And then had to serve time because he didn't do what he had to do to pay it. But I was a kid, and we would make it a family thing. My grandmother did her best to make sure that we were able to maintain a relationship with our dad while he was away. And interestingly enough, and I hate it, like every time I think about it, I get a little sad because my dad used to write to me when he was incarcerated, and those letters were like the best thing ever. I cannot find them.
Oh, dang.
No idea where they are. I feel like they're in my mom's house and potentially got like damaged when she had a flood, and they were just mixed in and like got thrown away. But we had such a great relationship, although he was away, because again, you're in an environment where, like, you know,
reflecting on a lot, you think about a lot, you got a lot of time, you can be more thoughtful. Yeah, I get what you're saying.
Yes. So no, I've had brothers, all great people that just were in their situations, just caught up in things, you know, that just landed them there. Thankfully, everybody's home and doing well. And, you know, my dad is deceased, but he got out after, I think, a year or so, and he was fine. But yes, not bad people. We got to be honest about what we would and wouldn't do.
For sure.
Just very simple. I couldn't do that.
So I think that I want to go to a central theme, I feel like, for this. Like if I was a pastor, I would say this is the topic of the message.
Okay.
For this Sunday.
Let's hit the organs. It's almost time. I'm getting them warmed up.
Oh Lord. But no, I think that, and it's something that I don't know if we ever made this distinction, and something that I want people to realize when it comes to relationships is understanding the difference between chemistry and compatibility. Like, it's two different things, but you need both to really have a successful relationship. Like, chemistry is the emotional connection that you have with somebody, to where compatibility is more the natural alignment of lifestyles, choices, values, and things like that. And a lot of times we let the chemistry aspect trump the compatibility aspect.
Absolutely.
And that's why relationships don't work, because the highs are high, but then when you're living your regular life, nothing's aligned. So you're like, I love this person, we're amazing chemistry, whether physical or emotional or anything like that. But then when you're living your everyday life, you're not compatible at all.
How did what?
And it's like, oh yeah, your lifestyles don't match. That's why you don't feel like the relationship is working. Yes, you have great conversation. Yes, this person piques your interest and makes you feel excited. And yes, you orgasm and have a great time sexually. But once all that's over, you're not aligned. And I feel like that's a central theme with this. And one thing I want people to understand is, like, you have to be also compatible. And a part of compatibility is also timing. Like, timing is a part of compatibility.
Timing is everything.
Like, you have to, like, you have to be aligned with the same timelines, because if that's not aligned, you're going to have a lot of issues.
Yeah.
You may want kids now, I may not. Like, I may want them in 7 years, you may want them now. And if, depending on our ages, if that doesn't make sense, then we could have great chemistry. We could have a lot of the same values, but the timing doesn't make sense. So then there's going to be resentment. There's going to be issues. There's going to be all these different conversations that we're going to have, all based off of ignoring the compatibility thing.
You're hitting the nail on the head, man. I think chemistry is exceptionally overpowering for kind of two pockets of people, two groups of people, either very young people, right? Because so much of what you do when you're really young is based on those instantaneous euphoric feelings about everything, like from the people you become friends with to the schools that you choose. All of it is about, like, how does everything just kind of like make you feel in the moment. The people you date, it's like the butterflies thing, and all of that stuff is so fly by night, if you will. And so I think, yes, people that are really young, 18 to, I say, like, you know, early 20s, a lot of that overpowering chemistry thing is a thing. And I think in that time frame, I actually think it's pretty much okay, because you got to learn, right? So you'll be in that experience. The other group of people are people who are older, but they've done no work to mature themselves emotionally and understand that chemistry will not be enough. If you get into a long-term relationship, and more specifically share a household with the person, like you live in the same home, therefore you combine financials, and you also combine your time in a sense that there's not always something entertaining you, you will learn very fast that compatibility must be a part of the equation.
For sure.
You will learn so quickly that you gotta have that piece of it right. And a lot of times you'll learn it because that relationship didn't work out, because you took chemistry into it. You moved in and bought a house or got an apartment based on chemistry. And then the day to day, like you talked about, unwinds or unravels because you spent absolutely no time trying to get to the bottom of people's their fundamentals, like your core values as a person. What do you really like want out of life? Not just what do you want, but do you have a plan for how to get there? You may not like have step 1 through 35, but you got some general ideas on how you want to get there. You know where you may want to retire, or you know where you may want to grow businesses, or you know that you want to get into businesses. People like, I've said this on so many of our episodes of how much people spend time during the dating process not doing this. You spend no time asking really good questions about what this person, what their composition is made up of, right?
Yep.
Not just the easy stuff that you can see. Dre, I can look you in your face and be like, he good looking. That's not going to change tomorrow or Wednesday. So we don't have to spend a lot of time talking about how good we look. Like, I love a compliment, right? But you got to figure out what's going on in my mind. You have to figure out what's going on in my heart. You have to figure out who I am as a soul and not just who I am in the flesh. That's easy. The only person that would be hard to get that through to is a person who can't see.
Yeah.
But other than that, we have got to spend so much more time on asking questions to get to, is this person really the right person for me? I would rather figure that out, even if that takes me like a year to really get a good sense of that, because we also know that people will change, right?
Yeah.
People change over time. But so many people get into these heavy relationships, get all the way married, and just spent zero time on getting to the core of compatibility.
That hit it right on the head. More relationships fail for lack of compatibility versus lack of chemistry. And the issue that you don't understand is that lack of compatibility can alter the chemistry. You know
Absolutely.
what I'm saying? Like, once that starts
I said
getting
that from my chest.
you did. Like you said that from experience.
Yes,
like,
a little something, a couple times.
But that's real. It's like if that compatibility isn't there, that can start to affect how you feel about that person, because the chemistry thing is like, it's so like it's emotional, and we know how volatile emotions are, like how unpredictable emotions can be. Sometimes they're up, sometimes they're down.
Yeah.
And that chemistry, you know, you'll never be able to keep that same, not saying you can't sustain that flame, but the same level of intensity, it will never be the same from when it was in the very beginning.
Yes.
But
even if you're keeping the flame going and all the things, it's just not the same.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But I mean, if you can think of that as chemistry being the flame, I guess you can almost see compatibility as that wax that's keeping that candle going, you know? So don't ignore that.
Don't.
Like please don't ignore the compatibility thing, because we see it so much that people like just dismiss it or act like it's secondary, to where, like I said, most relationships fall apart. What they say, one of the number one reasons for divorce is money, right? It's not a chemistry thing. It's a compatibility thing. The thought process of how to manage it, what to do with it, how to use it, like that's what that is.
How to make it.
How
much do we actually need?
That's compatibility. That's not an emotional chemistry thing.
No.
Like I'm sure if you guys wanted to go to Cabo or go to Belize or go to someplace and enjoy a time on a beach, you all would love that, and it would be great, and you would have a great time. So it's not a chemistry issue. It's like, how do we get to affording and paying for the trip? Do we got to save 10% every month? No, I don't like that. Do we got to stop buying designer stuff? No, I want my bag and I want my glasses and I want, like, that's where the compatibility, your lifestyle choices and values are just different.
Yeah.
So that's where the issues come into. So that is the central theme that I want to lay down for this episode, is like chemistry versus compatibility.
Yeah.
Because as we look at this situation, it's like, we're looking at your life right now, and it sounds like because you've had a relationship over the phone, you've built an amazing chemistry with this person. However, the compatibility of your two lives doesn't seem to be matching up.
No.
I don't know. I feel like a preacher right now.
You did listen. You better lay down them organs on in the background. Just let me know. I got a couple organ tracks I can send on over to you.
Need to change my cadence. Goodness gracious.
Because the Bible says,
as you see, the desperate housewife is saying, although I am. Nah, let me stop.
Stop playing.
Let me stop. But
no, man, that's you definitely are preaching, and I think it goes back to my original thought beat why this would not be ideal for me, because I don't know how we could really figure that piece of it out if we're only able to develop compatibility over the phone while you are incarcerated.
Exactly.
I just don't even know if that's enough. In order to really get a full picture of compatibility, I need to see how you operate in the real world. I do. I'm not saying jail is fake, but it is a altered, what is it? Oh gosh. Like it's almost like
augmented reality. Like
yes, it's an augmented reality. It is not, you don't have the full range of freedom. And so what you'll do and say in that environment, it's very hard. One, because you are going to come home to potentially a lot of things being very different,
for sure.
Especially during that much time. 15 years is a lot of time for literally society to have changed. And in his dynamic, society has changed in the last 15 years.
Yes.
I assume he's probably been home for a couple years. But then you're also coming back into trying to figure yourself out and where you find place in the world. Like, what do you now do? We all know the downsides of having a criminal record. It is in some cases fortunate. We're thankful that people who do really heinous things to children and whatever, that they are to some degree continually penalized. Like they can't live in certain like you wouldn't want that, right? Like, so in that way it's good, but in other ways it's very hard for people to come home and like get a job just to put food on the table, because people won't hire people with criminal backgrounds. It's hard for people to get housing because a lot of places won't let you live there if you have a criminal record, so you're already coming home to so much that you, I'm sure, have thought about, but it ain't nothing until you actually are having to do it. And that is already a massive weight, okay, to deal with individually. Now you're trying to do that with a partner, with a wife.
Yep.
Oh my goodness. Like
it's a lot.
It's a lot. A lot.
And I want to say before I move to the next point of this thing,
this sermon
of the preachers love points, don't they? Is that compatibility it's an action based checklist that you're using to check off to see if your lifestyle choices and values are the same. Because chemistry, I feel like, is fairly easy to see or to develop with somebody, to understand if you have it with somebody. Like you can kind of meet somebody and be like, oh, like after a few times being with them, you're like, the chemistry is great. Compatibility is an action-based thing. That's why a lot of people take a year and a half, 2 years to actually say, I want to be engaged with this person, because it's not, because words, people can say words.
Yep.
They can say words. If words were what compatibility was built off of, people could get married in 3 months.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, chemistry's great. Yeah, I do this and I do that and I take care of my stuff here. I believe this and I feel like this. And when we have kids, I'm going to do this and I feel like this. And if all those things were always true when somebody said it, then the compatibility checklist would be real quick and easy. And be like, okay, let's get married.
Yeah.
But the reason that you got to wait a little bit, because people could say a lot of things, but once they get comfortable, once you get in a relationship, then you actually see how they show up and what the reality of their lifestyle choices or the things that they value, or what you see is an actual priority for them, because somebody can value different things in their life, but the way that you prioritize those things could be a lot different when you're with somebody. So it's just take time to evaluate when you're in the compatibility space. And then when you see, and then I think that's also a thing too, like we talk about negotiables, non-negotiables in relationships. Like it's important for you to understand, like, what is something that I feel like I can't move on? Because once you identify that there's a compatibility issue, like, if you might be like, yo, I don't want to move to Houston. He says his life is there. That's where his job is. That's where his kids are. Like, I don't want to move there. If that's something that you don't want to do, you got to make that hard decision, even if the chemistry is great. And there's so many different other situations to where there's lifestyle choices and value things. Like you could have great chemistry with somebody and figure out they're atheists and you believe in God. Like that's going to cause issues. Like it's what they would call unequally yoked in a certain space. So just take your time when it comes to compatibility thing. This is a great chemistry versus compatibility is just a great.
It is.
Like
no, it is
a great thing, a great foundational relationship thing to understand. So I think the next thing, as we go into the scenario, a principle that we can look at is just setting the foundation for your relationship and what it's actually built on. So I don't like. I guess they knew each other before.
Yeah, assuming
that they knew each other before, but I think that's tough sometimes when you establish a certain level of, or you establish anything in a relationship and then you form a relationship off of that and then you try to deviate, years down the road.
Right.
And although you could be in a situation where you're even trying to better yourself because what you set the foundation on wasn't healthy, that person could have entered into that relationship with the unhealthy version of you and seeing that as the attractive version of you.
Yes. It's high on their chemistry radar.
Exactly.
Yes.
So once you try to switch that up, you may have to understand. It's kind of like, I don't know if this example makes sense, but Rhonda and I are in property management. We were in property management together. And it's like you have a place and somebody comes in and they're like, oh, like, this is cool. Like it's in my budget. It makes sense. It needs some work, but I'm cool with it. Like the budget's cool. Like I can afford it. I'm gonna have I'm good. And then you as the owner, you come in after a few years and you're like, man, just looking at this place, it really needs some work. Like this place really needs some work. And you say to the tenant, like, I want to renovate this place to raise the value of it, and that may come with an additional rent that you have to pay in order to be in this space.
Yeah.
And it's like that person coming to you and being like, nah, I ain't trying to pay more rent. Like you don't need to renovate. I'm good. Like I'm good here. And you're looking like, no, this place needs to be worked on. It needs to be better, but that requires more from you. It requires more compensation from you in order to afford the new value of this thing once I make it over and renovate it.
Talk.
And this situation is that you're coming into the situation saying I was in a place to where I needed work. And that's when you came into my life. The value was a lot lower then. Now I'm trying to renovate. I'm trying to be better. I'm trying to do better.
Yep.
But that's going to require you to up the things that you're giving me because the value of myself is now being raised. And what you have to understand is sometimes in these situations, the tenant can't afford it.
They can't afford it.
So what they got to do?
They got to go.
And you got to find another tenant.
See you later. You get your notice to vacate.
I'm sorry.
Gotta go.
I'm not going to sit here and let my place fall apart like this. I need to do better. I need to renovate. And everybody's not here to stay around for the renovation.
They not. You did that. Yes, you did. You did that real good. And I'm telling you, you did it in such a nice, metaphoric, great way, as you always do. But baby, I'm gonna bring it to you on the other side of things because Mr. Sir, oh my goodness, y'all heard me read that the man was incarcerated for 15 years.
Yes.
You came home to a home that I was maintaining by myself.
One bedroom apartment.
Probably
one bath.
With me and my child.
Yes.
Okay, which depending on who you are, right?
Yeah.
That might not even be enough space just for me and my daughter to be living in a 1-bedroom apartment.
That true.
Means that somebody doesn't have a bedroom.
Yep.
So we're either sharing a bedroom or the baby's sleeping in the living room. We've adjusted this space in order for us to live here comfortably. But you didn't come in here comfortably. You move into this home with me and my child. Okay, I make provision for that because you're now my husband. Then your kid, you have 2 other children, or you have 2 children with your ex who was sick and then passes away. And you're their parent. And I'm your wife. And so, yes, they got to come and live. They got to come and live with us. Now, because you know why they got to come and live with us? Instead of you finding a home for all of us to live in that accommodates us, well, because you were incarcerated for 15 years and therefore you are not in a position to actually provide housing that is appropriate for not only your wife and your wife's daughter, your stepdaughter, you also don't have the means to provide adequate housing for your own children and your own ass self.
5 total people.
So now 5 humans are living in a 1-bedroom apartment.
And 1 bath, which is
and
important.
And very likely 1 bath, even if it's 1.5. It's still small. And you are worried about threesomes? You are already a walking threesome, sir. You and your 2 children, which God rest their mama's soul. Don't know what happened. Tragic. I hate it that the kids don't have a mama. But my guy, the fact that you are worried about what I was doing with my cootie cat before I was with you, he's not experienced that side of her. She made that really clear. That is who she was before she was even in a relationship with him. Mm-hmm. And I'm gonna get on her in a little bit because you deserve some of this, Miss Desperate Housewife. But back to him. You walked into my home basically with a threesome, and you have the nerve to be worrying about a sexual threesome.
I don't even know when they're gonna do it. Where they're gonna do that?
Like, sir, you probably not in a position to really pay bills. Just even in this little ass house we got right now, and you worrying about putting some more cootie cat in the air. I wish you.
Where in the house you gonna do it?
Yeah, some people do that outside of their house, but I don't know if you can afford that.
If you can't do it inside your house, if you can't close the door, then you shouldn't be requesting that.
Absolutely not. You have a built-in threesome, perhaps not the sexy kind that you like, but you and your 2 children are living here and I don't want to say my home, right? Although it was her home. She's married to him now, so that's his home too. Mm-hmm. But sir, please. Sir, please. And she is pregnant. And your wife is pregnant. She said, I came out pregnant. Okay, cool. So she pregnant or was pregnant with an existing child, with you and 2 more kids. Boy, please. The fact that you're even thinking about sex is problematic for me. The fact that you're thinking about sex even on a basic level is problematic for me.
Yeah.
We got way bigger fish to fry. Like, my God, we could fry all the fish in the Atlantic Ocean. We need to focus on the fish. That's more important than sexual prowess in this dynamic. And I'm not saying sex is not important, because y'all know, I think sex is very important. But we have some major priorities that we need to deal with. And you trying to make me feel bad for not giving you a threesome when I have taken in 4 children. Yo 2, the one that you put inside of me, and your big ass. No shade, but shade. Sir, please.
Compatibility.
Sir, please.
You got to make sure you're compatible.
Sir, absolutely not. So
it don't look like the lives are compatible.
Mm-mm. And prison sometimes, and again, all disclaimers, I don't think people that are incarcerated are bad people, not by a long shot. But sometimes prison regresses people, or it locks them into where they were at the time that they were incarcerated.
Yeah.
So sometimes somebody might have got locked up when they were 18 and they were in jail for 20 years.
Yeah.
While they are 38, they're still 18. They're still 18. Mm-hmm. That's what this man is giving me in this dynamic. I don't know how old they are, right? But that is so immature. I can't even put it into words how immature this is. That, yes, being locked up for a long time, I'm sure you got a lot to get out. But sir, no.
But let me also say this, and you said you want to get on Desperate Housewife as well, so I'll let you give you a chance to do that. But one thing I want to make clear to somebody who's messing with somebody who's incarcerated is that, especially if the reason that they're incarcerated has nothing to do with you, right? Mm-hmm. You don't owe it to them because they've been locked up to then give them or show them life's wonders because they've been away. Mm-hmm. Like, it's not a thing to where it's like, oh, I've been locked up for 15 years. I'm just glad to be free. And you got to give him these sexual experiences and all these things. And he should just be able to kind of sit back and just like enjoy freedom for a little while at your expense. Mm-hmm. It's not your responsibility.
No.
You weren't on vacation. You weren't working a crazy job that was holding us down, and then you finally got a little breath to just like exhale and take a break. No, you were in jail. You were in prison by something I don't know, wasn't of my cause or my reason. And it's very much giving me like, I've been locked up for a little while. I just need to just like, just job, like, I'll get to that. Like, I just want to like do some stuff for me, like, hold me down. Like, and it's like, no, like I can't do that. Like, especially as a man, you have now responsibilities. You have children, you have a wife, you have like, now that welcome back to the real world. You're here now.
You're here.
We need to.
You have a lot to catch up on.
Yes.
And there's grace that is deserved in this space.
For sure.
Of course. And that's why I started the conversation with that way. It is very hard for people who have served time to come back out and become active participants in society in the ways that those of us who have not been incarcerated, we have privilege, if you want to call it that. We have privilege in that sense. I can go and apply to so many jobs today and get the job, mainly because I don't have a criminal background. It's not because I'm even qualified for the job. But on paper, I can clear and get employment. They don't have that luxury sometimes to even work at a place where some of us would be like, oh, that's a dead end job, like dropping fries or whatever. It's places like that won't even, some of those places won't even hire people who have served time for
especially
things.
15 years.
Yeah, even so for things knows? That aren't like
nonviolent offenses.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like, it is hard. It is very difficult. And I don't say it to I didn't say any of that stuff to shame him, but I just think, sir, you don't get
it's
endless
the request.
Grace. Yeah.
That's the issue. It's the request.
Yeah.
I want threesomes. Like, what?
Like, what? My God, three as in 3 jobs?
Like,
you know what I would like in 3s? Bedrooms. We could use 3 extra goddamn bedrooms in this apartment, seeing as though 1 kid is in here, 1 kid is in my stomach, and your 2 babies in here too. You know what we could use? 3 bedrooms.
And bathrooms.
Come on, dog. There's so many 3s that we could do.
It's like on the level of like, and it's almost, that's the thing that's getting me, is like he's almost saying it as if he's stressed, like, and not saying that he doesn't have any pressures. How could you do
this to me? How could you turn your freak off?
You put everything on her to hold down, and you are like, well, instead of being like in a situation where like, I see that she's taking on a lot. Yeah. First, let me see how I can relieve that pressure. Not because it's just being nice, because it's part of my responsibility, especially because my children are here. Like, you just like, I think the thing, like I said, for me, it's the request. Like, threesome, bro. Like, everything that y'all going through right now, y'all in 1 bedroom, 1 bath, 1 shower. Like, even if it's a half bath, like you said, it's 1 shower. That's the hardest thing. Like, a lot of people could lay their head in different corners. You only need like a little sliver couch, 1 bathroom.
So if somebody in there really using it.
I know that hot water heater ain't big.
Not in no apartment.
No,
it's not. It's not for all them heads. Not for all them heads. No. And don't know the ages of the children. Like,
even if it was 4 infants, like small children, and you could maybe wash some of them in the sink. You're
already in a situation where things aren't as comfortable as you would like them.
Aren't comfortable at all.
They're not comfortable. Like, yes, you can just take a sliver, but who wants to sleep in a sliver?
No.
Right? You can bathe the baby in the kitchen sink, but that's not really what you want to do. You want to be able to put your baby in a tub and give them and make bath time not just for cleaning, but for fun. That's where a lot of parents have fun with their babies during bath time, because so you're already having all of these dynamics that are uncomfortable, and now she is in a place where physically, sexually, she's not comfortable. That's the part where I want to get on her, and not really get on her, but I talked about this on a previous episode. I want women to realize that your sexuality is yours. You have full autonomy over what makes sense for you and what does not make sense for you. Never, ever, ever should you be doing things sexually for someone else. If there is no benefit to you, you should not be doing it. If you don't actually want to have threesomes, you should not be having threesomes. You are not there to perform an act and get paid for a service. That if you're there just performing an act, then that means that's a transaction and you should be being paid for your services. But if that's something that just your partner wants and you're just doing it, like you said, I promised him one. Like as if it's like a Christmas gift. People who have sex with other people or threesomes, orgies, whatever you want to call it, they're doing that because all parties involved like it. At least people who do it consistently, people who enjoy that lifestyle. They do it consistently because everybody gets something out of it. Imagine all of these stressors going on in your life and then you're trying to arrive to a sexual experience that you don't even want to do and then doing it. I don't even want you to have to mentally take yourself down there because you're going to damage yourself. I'm telling you right now, you're going to be laying there almost feeling like you are participating. And this is going to sound bad. And I'm not going to use the word, but the R word. Okay. You are going to feel like you are participating in an R, like almost giving your body up for use to somebody else who is not handling it properly, making you do something that only serves him. Like, Dre, do you want to have sex with Bree? Was she just laying there?
Heck no.
Of course not. It's not a good feeling. Anyone who is healthy and choosing like sex as a part of their life only wants to do it in a healthy way.
With somebody who equally wants to do it. Yeah.
Consent is a big part of why sex is so beautiful and great, because you doing things that like, I like it, but you do too. Like I can look at you and see and feel that you like it. To participate in sex with your husband and another person when you don't want to do it, you will feel that. Potentially the third party will feel that. I'm not sure if your selfish ass husband is going to notice. I don't know that he's going to notice that you're uncomfortable with it. I don't even know that he's going to care, right? That is a really, really, really bad place to be in. So get yourself together. Like for real, get yourself together. Don't ever give your body up for the purpose of someone else to just use it. Ever, never, ever.
I completely agree. Very well said.
Yeah, I mean, it's gross. And I've been there as a young woman. As a young woman, I've been there just doing things because, well, that's what he said he wanted. So what I want with my own body doesn't matter. That's nasty. That's wild. I mean, it's just, again, it's all the same with someone running up on me on the street, snatching me into a corner and assaulting me in a sexual way. To me, it's the same difference. There's no physical struggle, perhaps, but mentally, I'm not there. I'm not there. And the last thing I would want is to have that type of experience with a man that I gave my life to as my spouse. I think those are like the worst assaults because they happen within marriage, in this dynamic or in a forceful dynamic. Like, girl, absolutely not. Like she said, I'm giving up so much of myself, so many of my resources, literally. And now you want to give him what last little bit you probably even are holding on to, which is the autonomy over your own body.
As you're trying to better yourself.
As you're trying to better yourself. As you're trying to say, I'm a mother. I'm not just a mother of my own child and the child that I'm growing inside of my body. I am now a mother to your children. And you're worrying about a threesome, sir? Again, it's a lot of threes that you could bring into this relationship. How about you bring $300,000 in here so we can figure out how to live better?
I just think that there's a lot of like, there's a difference between like compromising in relationships and what you're describing, right? And then when it comes to things like things that are sexual, it's very like, I don't know, anything to where somebody's like requiring you to introduce somebody else into the relationship. I don't think that's a good sign of what the relationship is or what it is, what you're trying to make it, or the growth of that relationship or anything like that. So I just, I feel bad for Desperate Housewife in this situation because she's asking, what can she do, and she needs help. And I just wonder what you would do if like, or how he would respond if you just say like,
no,
I don't want to have a threesome.
Yeah.
What does that mean for us? Because the issue is that now this man is so ingrained in your life. Like he lives with you. You now are mothering his kids. Like those are your stepchildren. And like I said, y'all are married now. But I think just asking, like, just saying, like, I don't want to do threesomes. What does that mean for us?
It makes me think about I watch Housewives of Potomac, and one of the cast members, Ashley Darby, her and her husband have ex-husband, they got divorced. And she said one of the biggest reasons why is because once they had kids, they had two, she no longer wanted to have threesomes. She no longer wanted to allow their home and their space and her body. She did not want to share anymore. It changed for her. And he was not okay with that. That's not who he married. He married a woman who was into that type of thing. And I remember, and if you watch the show, that was a hot mess of a marriage. I don't think anybody is like, dang, they really should have stayed together. I don't think anybody really thinks that. But I remember initially feeling like, well, yeah, it is very, I think it's hard for you to change certain things about yourself that a person used as a means to marry you. Again, that chemistry thing. A big part of what it sounds like as to why he married her, it was based in chemistry and not necessarily a lot of compatibility. So once that sexual chemistry piece changed because she was bettering herself in her mind. I don't want to do this anymore. I want to focus more on being a mother. I don't feel like having such a strong relationship with sexual promiscuity or sexual, whatever the word is you want to call, participating in such lifestyle. She didn't want to do that anymore. She felt that did not do a service to her now being a mother. Her husband was not able to understand that. And I think at the end of the day, they've made the best decision for themselves, which is that we are not compatible. And so therefore we cannot be together. He now gets to go and find partners that works for them and they're cool with that. She now also gets to go and potentially find a partner that is like, yeah, that's not my thing. It's not my thing. So I do think it's tricky when you switch up, right? It is tricky.
That's why I said the second point of this and a general theme of this is foundation building. What is the foundation of your relationship built on? Like people always look at Brie and I and say, oh, you waited for marriage. How'd you do that? Why'd you do that? And it's like, that's the reason. Because if you look at relationships, the one thing that you're supposed to do with that person and nobody else in a monogamous relationship is sex and sexual things. Like everything else, like you can go to your mom or your sister to vent or to emotionally talk about something without your partner maybe, not feeling threatened by it or feeling any way about it. You can go work out, or guys play golf, or you can go do this to relieve stress and things like that in your relationship. Like there's a lot of outlets for a lot of things you deal with in your relationship, but sex is supposed to be the one thing that you do with that person. So like when it comes to foundation building, like that's an important step in that and how you manage that situation and what you're doing. And I think if you build it, if part of that foundation is something physical and something as extreme as threesomes or let's say orgies or certain types of things, it's like, if that's what you're building it on, you're talking about, that's like understanding foundational pieces are like things that are supposed to be around to the end. Like if you look at foundations of buildings, even if you look at zombie movies or anything like that, like I watched The Last of Us, is really good on HBO Max, but zombie movies, you'll see the buildings are run down but the foundations of the buildings are still intact and still there, because that's like the strongest part of it. That's where you put all the effort into making that everything that's built on it is going to be stable. So if you're going to like enter into a relationship, think about if you want the foundation of your relationship to be built off of threesomes and things like that, because that's something that can change. Like you're going to get older. You're going to like you said, have children. Your viewpoint on this might be a lot different. But if that's what the person entered into the relationship thinking it was going to be and how things were going to be, you just have to like realize that although you want to change and be better, that person's looking like, yo, this is what I thought it was. And now you're switching it up on me.
Yeah.
Am I wrong for expecting things to be how they were when we first got together? Or
are you
wrong for switching up on me?
Yeah.
And like, suck it up. Like, this is what we agreed to. So it's like, that's why I always say relationships are about growing together. You have to take that into account. That's the same as we talk about foundation, is the same that we're talking about planting something on good soil so that it can take root and that it can last long and it can continue to grow over time. It's the same exact principles that you have to in the relationship, making sure whatever you're rooted in, whatever you're building on, is something that can last, and not something that can just, be temporary. And a lot of sexual things, they change over time, and it's not the most stable foundation to build off of.
It's not. And I think a lot of times in relationships, people don't give a lot of room for their partner to grow. No. You don't give a lot of room for them to grow. I don't think it's realistic for your person to completely change, right? To become a person that is unrecognizable to you. But if you go into a relationship, especially a marriage that you plan to be in for the rest of your life, and you don't think that this person will change, you're doing yourself a disservice.
Yep.
Of course they are going to change. It would be my hope that they would change in the best ways possible, that they would be more enlightened, that they would be more stable, that they would, have more insight and thought on how to navigate life. Yes, like they should be growing, they should be changing for the better. Mm-hmm. When you don't give room for any type of growth, because on the flip side of that, the reality is sometimes your partner is going to change in ways that is not actually things that you would prefer. Yeah. They may get messier, but that could be an offset of because they're now busier. Maybe they are handling more things outside of the house. Like maybe they're now running a really high pace, high intensity business that they used to be so neat and thoughtful at home with things because, well, they didn't have as much of a workload. You have to give room for these adjustments and these changes and figure out how you can get into the ebb and flow of them. And more than anything, having communication about it when it's happening.
For sure.
Not once it's bubbled up, not once it's bubbled over, not once now we're at each other's throat and now you're throwing in my face, but you change. Well, the changes were probably slight 2 years ago and you never said anything about them. Have open and honest and clear communication, as we talked about at the top of the episode with this article from Washington Post, that being very honest about what's happening inside of your relationship, it's necessary constantly to inventory and evaluate what is going on, because people are going to change.
Yes.
Your spouse included. Surprise! They're going to change. So I just, if you want healthy, long-lasting relationships, whether they're romantic or not, understanding that this person is going to morph over time is, I feel like, almost like step one. For sure. Just put that in your mind that who I'm talking to today might be very different. When I met you years ago, you are not the man that I met years ago. You very didn't true. Completely change. Like no, a lot of your foundation is still who it is. Mm-hmm. But how you think about certain things, how you think about women and relationships, it's very different today. Mm-hmm. Imagine if I was like, oh, Dre, I can't be your friend no more, because like you were like way more, I don't know, just entertaining.
Fun. And
like it was just, the stories were so blah, 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 blah. No, I made room in my mind for you to mature and for you to change in ways that I may not even know about, because I'm not your spouse. I don't live in a house with you. Uh-huh. But I would, what I've seen online where someone said like, it's funny when people haven't seen or talked to me in years and they're so surprised, and it's like, oh, you're not the person that I once knew. And it's like, yeah, I'm not supposed to be. Mm-hmm. That person don't live here no more.
Yeah.
They don't. Your spouses are not, or your partners, they're not in exemptions to that. They're going to change, whether that's weight gain, weight loss, maturity, immaturity. It's just so many things, right? And so I think in her dynamic, it's unfortunate that you're married to a person that does not understand that this change is happening for you, and for you it's a positive change. He sees it as a negative change. It is something that he really wants, and he clearly is almost like making you feel bad for not giving it to him. And I think specifically in her dynamic, it's a crock of crap, because this man has so much more to be focused on as a loving, protective partner to you and father to children, that like the fact that this is even a thing, I would not be able to do this. Yes, we can have the conversation. Yes, marriage is about for better, for worse, blah, blah, blah. But I am just not a fan of how it all came together to begin with. I'm just not.
Yeah.
This is the dynamic, the foundation in which it was built upon was rocky on top of rocky on top of rocky.
For sure. I think that's a great advice for desperate housewife. And when it comes to these scenarios, like you asked what you should do, we are very reluctant to mention divorce when it comes to married people. Like, we gave you a lot of information for you to, digest and take in and consume. But ultimately, you have to come to that decision yourself of what you ultimately want to do. We gave you what the repercussions of going one way versus another could be. I guess my final thought would just go to him and be like, I don't want to have, I understand, I love you, care about you. And I understand, and I think it's important to acknowledge if you were speaking that way over the phone, like, oh, I would do this and do this and do that, and I used to do this, and that was the expectation that you were setting. Acknowledge that you did that. I understand, I did that, and that was probably misleading. And through this time, I've had growth, I've changed, and I realized, like, I don't want to do that. What does that mean for us? And also let them know, like, as soon as you say that, just be like, and listen, I know that there's an argument of what a wife's supposed to do, how you're supposed to do this, and what I should do. And I understand all that. There's no reason for us to argue or go back and forth, no matter what you say. I don't want to do it.
Not doing it.
So I just want to ask you, what does that mean for us? Because I'm not doing it. What does that mean for us?
Yeah. And prepare yourself to hear honestly what that means for us.
Yeah.
Because that could, for him, it could mean, well, I'm a cheat. Well, I still want to be here for you because I don't want to leave you hanging with the kids, mine, yours, the whole thing. But I need that and I want that. Prepare yourself for his answer.
Be prepared for the wifely duty response. Be prepared for all that. But just, that's not what you want, man. So don't
set a standard
don't do it.
And stand on it.
Stand on it.
Stand
That's
on
Rhonda
it.
said. That's one of her sayings.
It is. It is.
Any final words for a desperate housewife, or you feel like we hit it off?
Yeah, I feel like we really hit it off. This was not to judge her or him because it's a very nuanced dynamic of trying to maintain a relationship after long-term incarceration, and not fully understanding the psychology behind that, because there's a lot of it.
For sure.
But just the facts that you laid out for me are enough for you to really push back on this and not give up your autonomy. And you have done a lot. You've done a lot. You wrote some of the things, but I'm sure you could have probably gone on and on and on and on and on. Because I have friends, I have family members who have been there for men who were incarcerated, no longer incarcerated. And like I said, it's a heavy lift. It really is. So I pray for your peace, really, and I hope that you are in therapy. And if you're not, you should be in it. You,
for sure.
Him, but definitely you. So, sending you love, girl.
Sending you love, for sure, for sure. Well, thank you guys, all the real lovers that made it to the end. We appreciate you for always listening. We hope that advice, that insight, that helped. And like I said, we post these on the Relationship Restored page as we release them. So if you want to offer any advice on the YouTube comments, I see people do that. If you want to offer any advice or words of encouragement or anything you want to say on Instagram, I've actually seen people do it. And then we've had the people who scenario it is reach out and be like, hey, I'm so-and-so, like, thank you guys for this. Or they look at the responses, because these are your fellow real lovers. This is a community. Like, this person, Desperate Housewife just isn't somebody that Rhonda and I are trying to help. She's part of all of our community.
A part of our
community. She's a real lover, y'all. We gotta help her out in any way we possibly can. So make sure you respond and do those things if you have something you want to say. And in the future this year when we launch our membership, so these are some things that we're going to do. This is kind of towards the end, and maybe I'll mention it on the next episode in the beginning. I'll do that so that we get more people get their thoughts on that.
Awesome. But thank you, Anonymous.
Thank you, Anonymous, for everything. So you can make sure to, I'm doing what Rhonda normally does, make sure to follow us on Instagram at It's Dre Smith,
at Ronnie Cakes,
and at Relationship Restored. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe to the YouTube, and leave a 5-star review for us. Shout out to all our real lovers. We will catch y'all later.